Hey watch fam, thank you for clicking on the video and welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to talk to you about the Tudor Black Bay 58925 Silver. This is a very unique watch, as if you are a collector or know anything about watches, silver is very rarely used, and I thought this was a very unique choice. So super excited to talk to everybody about this Tudor Black Bay 58, and in my opinion this is the best variant of the Black Bays. But before we get started, let's do a quick wrist check. I am wearing my second favorite watch in the collection, and that is the COSC Polaris Tribute 1968. This is the Alarm Memovox, and I really do enjoy wearing this watch. So enough of that, and let's jump in and talk about the dial on the Tudor Black Bay 58925. For me, and if you've been a fan of the channel, I am a huge fan of the dial. The dial really has to speak to me. That is the part of the watch that you're going to be looking at the most. So before I even think about materials, case shape, case size, the dial is the thing that jumps out to me the most. And there is something really special that speaks to me when I look at the Tudor Black Bay 925. There's something that is extremely warm and inviting when you look at the combination of the snowflake hands with this beautifully done taupe dial. For me, if the dial doesn't speak to me, I won't enjoy checking the time as much. Again, this dial accomplishes that very well, despite having some traditional features that I do not usually like on the Tudor Black Bay, which is why I steered clear from them for the majority of my time as a collector. Let's start to break this down a little bit. So as I mentioned earlier, the dial is this beautiful taupe, which has shades of gray with a tad bit of hint of brown, and which allows us to contrast very nicely with the beautiful leather strap that comes on the Tudor Black Bay 58. This combination creates a very warm and pleasing look and manages to bring a smile whenever I check the time. And I also think the dial contrasts extremely nice against the aluminum bezel, which is a darker tint to the dial. Next up, we have the white lume-filled circular hour markers with the traditional triangle at 12 o'clock. No date to throw off the symmetry of the dial, and you get these baton and circular field combinations for your minute marker. So this is just a really great looking dial, one of my favorites. Snowflake hands, so this is something that I am not typically a fan of, but for some reason they work with this watch, and I actually think that is due to the color of the dial. So something about the watch being made of silver versus stainless steel in this beautiful taupe finish really allows the snowflake hand aesthetic to really make the watch stand out and feel fresh and unique. Maybe this is all in my head, but for me, this taupe combination creates a nice little winter wonderland in my own head. Next, we have the Tudor logo traditionally placed right underneath at 12 o'clock. And we have 3 lines of text that is traditional on Tudor Black Bays, where it gives you the depth meter and also that it's chronometer grade and COSC certified. Swiss made sits outside the minute track. This all looks amazing under a well-executed dome sapphire crystal. Again, Tudor has been nailing the vintage aesthetic over and over again. I think they have went to that well too many times. And so it was really great to see them go a different direction with both this Black Bay in silver and the ceramic model that I think looks amazing. So the bezel is a unidirectional rotatable bezel, which is also finished in the 925 silver. You have a 60-minute graduated disc in this matte taupe. And I want to say Tudor call this anodized aluminum, and silver gilded markings and numerals is blended in to give the bezel this very unique vintage inspired look that I think, again, just contrasts extremely well with this dial. Lastly, the bezel is loud and sturdy. Get you a bezel click here. And one thing I do love about all the Black Bay models, the bezels have no play. So if you were really using this as a diving instrument, I am not sure why you would dive in a silver watch. However, if you were, the bezel will be secure, nice, tight, and in place. So this watch is called the Tudor Black Bay 58925S, and the 925S is for silver. It is definitely original and unique for a dive watch. I think that is the feature that people talk about the most. I have no intentions on diving anytime soon, so I have no intentions on diving on this watch. I just will thoroughly enjoy wearing it. Silver has a tendency to tarnish, And as you can see on mine, I've had mine for a few months and I've worn it quite often. It is pretty much standing the test of time so far. I have seen a couple online that show a little bit of tarnish. However, that's nothing that standard jewelry cleaner would not remove for you. The matte finishing on the silver turns down the brightness. Silver tends to be what I would call a really bright metal. It's extremely reflective. Tudor does a good job putting a matte finishing on this and really tames the brightness of the watch. The case size is 39 millimeters, which I think will accommodate any wrist size. As I mentioned earlier, the gentleman that I saw wearing this watch at one of the watch events, pretty big guy, 6'4", well in the 240 range, and I thought it looked amazing on his wrist. His wrist was probably 7 3/4. I'm 7 1/4. And I think this watch looks great. I would recommend this watch for as small as a wrist down to 6.5, especially if you don't mind wearing a watch that looks a little bigger. If you have a smaller wrist, you can probably go down to as small as 6 1/4. And I think this watch is gonna look great. 39 millimeters, it's an extremely versatile size for a diver. Next, moving on to the width. So this watch has a lug to lug width of 47.5, perfect size that's gonna accommodate a wide variety of wrists. I probably wouldn't go smaller than 6 inches for this watch. This has very contemporary 20 millimeter lug width, which I think again is appropriate for a size. Tudor could have went 19 millimeters like a lot of watch brands are tending to do with these odd size. I appreciate the fact that Tudor stuck with 20 millimeters. That means that I can find a variety of straps for this and without having to worry about the extra bunching. This is actually a very versatile watch. I've worn this on a variety of different style of NATO straps. I featured it in my last strap video because of its versatility. Just a really versatile watch, and I am glad that it has standard 20 millimeter lug width. Lastly, this is 12.7 millimeters thick. I said that a little bit earlier. So it's a little bit chunky, but it's not a deal breaker. When you wear this on the wrist, the way the case is constructed, it does sit pretty slim in profile. I would imagine that you will be able to get this under 3/4 of dress cuffs unless you're wearing really, really tight cuffs. Again, this is probably not the watch that I would wear with cuffs anyway. However, if that's something that's a factor to you, that is something to keep in mind. Super tight cuffs, probably a no-go. Lastly, I am not a movement snob by any stretch of the imagination. However, I owned the OG Black Bay for a few months and had a really hard time bonding with it, largely because I think the size, the 41 millimeters and the really long lugs made it a little bit challenging for me to wear, and it looked okay on my wrist. I just didn't love it. With that being said, the MT5400 movement that Tudor is using as their in-house movement looks incredible. I think the movement may be manufactured by Breitling, or Breitling is using this movement in their watches as well. I'm not 100% sure. But with that being said, the movement is really great to look at. And it is great to see that Tudor is using this in-house Calibre. Not that it matters that much, but this looks very similar to if I popped open my Submariner, some of the very similar aesthetics that I would see on Rolex, and it just looks very, very, very well executed. That's reassuring. So with that being said, MT5400 is a chronometer grade manufacturer movement, COSC certified, with a impressive 70-hour power reserve. Leave it on your dresser for a few days and not have to worry about resetting the time, which again, I don't necessarily care about too much on this watch because I don't have a date to worry about. Again, it's fantastic. You can just set the time and you don't have to worry whether or not you're an AM or PM. We get to see the movement through a very cool open display case back, so I do enjoy that factor. And everything else is pretty standard. Beats at 28,800 BPH or 4 Hertz. 27 joules, and you have hacking seconds, which should be customary on a watch at this price point. So I'll be honest, the strap, I do love the strap. I think it looks really great. However, it kind of matches my skin a little bit, so there's not a lot of contrast. So I have primarily worn this exclusively on traditional NATOs and these Alpine rubber straps that I've been wearing all summer because this has been one of the hottest summers that I can remember in a really long time. But going back to the OEM strap, the leather strap is very, very thick and robust, so it does feel substantial, like it is coming from a premium watch. The buckle is very nicely designed, and I love the fact that with the OEM strap, When you loop it through, it does accommodate, it's like a little cutout that allows the extra strap to kind of rest there nicely. Very small attention to detail, but it is something that I do like about the watch. This watch wears really well on NATOs. I would almost say that it was designed for it. I just think that's the best way to wear a diver in my opinion. But the watch wears perfectly and fits really, really well. It is extremely comfortable to wear. It has great presence without being too large. So you definitely know that it's there. It is a touch of class with it because it's not one of these oversized divers. Not that I have anything against oversized divers. I have a couple in my collection as well, but it is nice to throw a watch on a NATO strap and just be able to blend into the environment. And as I talked about earlier, the watch is a little chunky, but it is nothing that impacts the wearing experience. You would still be okay doing this with a double pass NATO strap. Single pass NATO strap is fantastic, but the double pass is not gonna add too much of the extra bulk. And for me, for a diver, anything under 13 millimeters is normal. I wore my Planet Ocean, which is like a tank compared to this. I feel like that was 16.5 millimeters. And I wore that on a NATO strap. That was a little bit chunky and could be a little bit bulky. This wears perfectly fine on a NATO strap, even with the added bulk. So first video in a long time, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Always trying to get better at pushing out content. Definitely want to be more conversational. So getting away from the hard scripts and just preparing a little bit differently. So drop a comment, whether you liked it, like the new style, don't like the new style. I'm always open for feedback. And if you have not done so, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It really does help. I recently just hit 1,000 subscribers, so I'm super motivated to get back and hoping to grow the channel because I really do enjoy talking watches. So with that all said, thank you, watch fam. Thank you for clicking on the video and taking a few minutes to hang out with me to hear my thoughts and experiences on the Tudor 925 Silver. Next up, I will be doing a video on the Cartier, Calibre de Cartier. I don't know if I'm gonna do this one or the Dietrich DD1. I have to learn how to pronounce that first. So those two videos are on the horizon. Thank you. See you soon.